All right, so we're diving deep today into something pretty electrifying. Xiaomi.
Yeah, they certainly made a splash.
They did with their new EV, the SU7.
Yeah,
And this is really a special one for you, listener, because you sent us a ton of really, really great stuff about this.
a lot to dig into.
Articles, insights, all kinds of
I was
things.
impressed. Yeah,
Yeah, so we're going to unpack this whole launch
it's interesting.
and see what's up. So where should we even begin with this?
Well, I think what grabs you right off the bat is just how incredibly well it's done right out of the gate.
Yeah, they didn't tiptoe into this.
They did not tiptoe. 5,000 Founders Edition models just poof, gone like that.
Yeah, I remember seeing that and it was like, wait, what?
Then you start hearing these numbers like 50,000 orders in like less than a half an hour, and then you're up to almost 90,000 in the first 24 hours.
It's hard to wrap your head around for a company that's never...
Just don't see that.
You just don't see that, yeah.
A new player coming in and making that kind of an impact,
Especially in the car market.
especially in the car market.
Yeah, like that's not a new phone.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a whole car.
That's not a software update. This is a big deal.
And the other thing that I thought was really fascinating was just how much buzz there was outside of like the usual circles.
Right. It wasn't just the tech blogs and the car magazines.
Yeah, my social media was blowing up.
It was everywhere.
And it was people who I wouldn't think of as like car people.
Right. And I think that speaks to something really interesting. They kind of broke through in a way that we haven't seen.
Yeah, for sure. So, okay, so to understand all of this, maybe we need to take a step back.
Yeah, rewind a little bit.
And look at Xiaomi, right? Like, where are they coming from?
Xiaomi, the company. Yeah.
For most people, I think when you say Xiaomi,
Smartphones, right?
you think smartphones, you think smart home devices, this whole ecosystem of devices.
A huge range of products.
Yeah, consumer electronics giant.
And that's what's so fascinating. They have this very specific history in consumer electronics. I remember when their phones first started coming out, it was all about how much tech you were getting for your money.
Oh yeah,
Like an incredible value proposition.
that was the big thing.
And that perception might have shifted a bit as they've grown and expanded and their brand has matured.
And their prices have gone up too a little.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
But that core idea of making technology accessible,
Yeah.
I think that's always been a big part of who they are.
Yeah, and they've built an incredible brand.
It's hugely popular.
A huge loyal user base. And what's so interesting looking at all this material you sent is how that brand loyalty seems to be translating.
Leaping right over.
Yeah, into this whole new world.
Brand new category.
Cars.
Cars. I mean, who would have thought?
Electric vehicles.
And we're even seeing some really interesting early signals about who's gravitating towards it. Younger consumers definitely, and this was a surprise to me, a lot of buzz among women.
Yeah, that really jumped out at me too. I was like, huh, that's not,
Not who you'd typically expect.
yeah, not who you'd expect.
It really speaks to the power of a well-managed brand, doesn't
Yeah.
it? You cultivate that kind of trust and it carries over.
It seems to be, yeah. And they're also doing some really interesting things with their existing ecosystem. This whole idea of human car home integration.
Right. It's like this seamless connectivity between your phone, your car, and all your smart home devices.
Like everything just works together.
It's a pretty compelling idea.
It is.
And it's something they're uniquely positioned to do because they have this vast ecosystem already in place.
Yeah, it's not just a car.
It's this whole connected experience.
Yeah, exactly. And it's still early days, I think.
Of course, we're still figuring out exactly how all of this is going to play out in everyday life.
Yeah, how are you really going to use it? What are the real use cases?
Right, but the potential is huge.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's getting people excited.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so they've got this strong foundation in consumer tech.
A real powerhouse.
But moving into EVs, this is a different beast.
Like a whole other level.
This is not like launching a new phone.
It's not a simple upgrade.
You're talking about an incredibly competitive market.
With really high stakes.
Yeah, you've got the dedicated EV companies.
The ones who've been at it for a while.
NIO, Xpeng Liaodo, these guys have been in the trenches.
Battling it out.
And then you've got the traditional car companies
And giants.
making this massive shift
Transitioning to electric.
to electric. So it's not an easy place to jump into.
It's not for the faint of heart. And we've seen other big tech companies try to make this leap and stumble.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that this is not easy.
It's a whole different ballgame than making phones or laptops. Remember when Apple was going to make a car?
Oh yeah, all the rumors.
All that hype, and then poof, nothing. It's a really stark reminder of just how challenging this industry is. Designing, manufacturing, selling cars at scale.
It's so different.
So different.
Yeah.
It's a whole other world. Okay, so When the SU7 was launched, like, who were they going up against right away? Like, who was in that ring?
So the SU7 lands right in this sweet spot, the 200,000 to 300,000 RMB range,
Okay.
which puts them head-to-head with a lot of really established players. Geely Zeekr 007, you've got a whole bunch of models from BYD, Tesla, of course, the Model 3, the Model Y.
Those are big names.
Then you've got players like Ninata Leapmotor Hi-Fi,
Wow.
Avatry IM with their LS6. And that's not even everyone. It's a crowded space.
So they really jumped into the deep end.
They did not shy away from the competition.
Yeah, it's interesting because even before the SU7 price was announced, it seemed like Geely, with their Zeekr and Galaxy brands, were kind of already positioning themselves.
It was like they were anticipating Xiaomi's arrival.
Yeah, trying to box them in almost.
Yeah, there are these whispers of Geely trying to surround Xiaomi's anticipated price points with their own models. And then after the price was announced, some pretty direct reactions. Yeah, you mentioned a slogan, 8 is stronger than 7.
Right, which seemed like a pretty clear jab at the SU7. Probably referring to their Galaxy E8.
Yeah.
It's interesting, though, because it shows how much attention Xiaomi was already commanding even before they officially entered the market.
Yeah, it was like everyone was waiting to see what they were going to do.
Anticipation was high.
And then Xiaomi announces the price.
And boom.
Those pre-order numbers were crazy.
Off the charts.
Like, it really exceeded what most people thought was possible, even when you compare the SU7 specs to other cars in that price range. Like you mentioned the Zeekr 007.
Right on paper, some of those competitors might even have had better specs, more features, more bells and whistles.
But people still flocked to the SU7.
In droves.
Which is a really interesting question, like what is driving that? If it's not just about...
The raw numbers.
Yeah, if it's not just about the specs.
It tells you there's something else going on, something deeper.
And one of the things that kept coming up was the design. People really seem to love how the SU7 looks.
Especially women. We saw that come up again and again. It seems like the aesthetics really resonated. And that's a big deal. Because, car design is...
It's subjective.
It's emotional.
Yeah.
It's about how the car makes you feel. And I think Xiaomi tapped into something there.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so we've got this powerful brand, this bold move into a tough industry.
We had a really positive initial response.
Amazing response. So the big question is why? Why did they decide to do this? What's the thinking here? And I think we have to talk about Lei Jun.
Absolutely. The man himself.
He was front and center during this whole launch.
It was impossible to miss his presence. And there was something really compelling about the way he communicated.
Yeah, he wasn't just reading a script.
It felt genuine, sincere, almost like he was this passionate entrepreneur launching a new startup. And I think that resonated with people.
Yeah, that personal touch really came through.
And it makes you think this isn't just about Xiaomi adding another product to their lineup.
It feels bigger than that.
Much bigger.
Yeah, like a long-term strategic play.
I think Xiaomi is looking at the future. The future of personal transportation, the future of connected living. And they want to be a major player.
And they're using this EV as a way to do that.
It's about expanding their ecosystem, reaching new customers, creating new revenue streams. It's a bold move.
It's a huge move. You mentioned earlier that Xiaomi seems to have a knack for understanding and even flattering user needs. Can you talk a little more about that?
So think about some of the design choices in the SU7. They kept physical buttons alongside the voice control system.
Which is interesting because a lot of EVs are going all in on touchscreens and voice commands.
Right. But Xiaomi seems to have recognized that some people just prefer physical buttons.
They like that tactile feedback.
It's familiar. It's intuitive. And it makes the driver feel like they're in control, like the car is designed for them.
Like they're saying, we get you.
Exactly. It's about understanding what your users want and need.
Even if it goes against the current trends.
And we saw this with their Xiaomi voice assistant, too. It's so deeply embedded in their ecosystem. It's almost like second nature to their users. And I heard that during the launch event.
It almost crashed.
Well, it experienced something like a denial of service attack. Apparently, Lei Jun mentioned Xiaomi 56 times during his presentation.
56 times?
56 times. And all those Xiaomi users out there, their phones lit up.
Wow.
They were trying to access Xiaomi all at once. It's incredible. It just shows you how engaged their user base is.
And how big.
How massive. Okay, so let's talk money for a second.
Yeah, because developing a car is not cheap.
It's a huge investment. And the reports are saying that Xiaomi spent something like 6.7 billion RMB on R&D for the SU7.
Which is a lot of money.
It is. But then you compare that to what other companies have spent on their EV platforms. like Geely's CMA architecture.
Yeah, I read that it could be over 10 billion RMB.
So how did Xiaomi manage to develop a competitive car with less money up front?
That's a really good question.
It's a fascinating question, and I think it gets to the heart of how Xiaomi operates. There's a lot of speculation that they're really good at integrating existing technologies.
Instead of starting from scratch every time.
Exactly. Why reinvent the wheel when you can find a perfectly good wheel that's already been invented?
It's a smart strategy.
It's efficient, it's practical, and it lets them get to market faster.
And it might explain how they kept those R&D costs down.
It's definitely a possibility. And there's another piece of the puzzle here that I think is really important.
The talent.
The talent. Remember who's Zhengyan?
The guy from Geely.
He was the head of their research institute.
Yeah.
Instrumental in developing the SEA architecture. A major player in the EV world. And guess what?
He went to Xiaomi.
Well, not directly. It was through an investment company with ties to Leijian.
Interesting.
But still, it's a huge deal.
So Xiaomi might have gotten access to all of his expertise.
His knowledge, his experience, everything he learned while developing the SEA platform. Chassis design, vehicle engineering, supply chain management. This could be a major reason why Xiaomi was able to create a competitive chassis without spending as much on direct R&D.
So it's not just about the money, it's about the people.
Exactly. It's about having the right people with the right expertise. And it looks like Xiaomi has been very strategic about that.
Okay, so we've talked about Xiaomi's brand, their strategy, their talent. It's an impressive entry into this market.
They've really made a statement.
But the EV market is getting more and more competitive every day.
The pressure is on.
You've got established tech companies like Huawei jumping in. They've got the AITO M7, the S7, direct competitors to the SU7.
The landscape is shifting.
So how do you see this playing out? Xiaomi has this strong brand, this focus on user experience, this amazing design.
You've got a lot going for them, but can they keep up?
Yeah. Can they scale their production? Can they maintain their quality? Can they keep innovating?
And what about the competition? Huawei has their own strengths. Deep pockets. Tons of experience in software and user interfaces. It's going to be fascinating to watch.
Yeah, it really feels like we're at the beginning of something big. So as we wrap up here, I want to leave your listener with a question. Xiaomi has this unique approach, this blend of consumer electronics and automotive ambition.
A hybrid.
What do you think is next? What kind of innovations are we going to see from them, from their competitors?
What's going to happen in this battle for seamless software integration, for intuitive user ecosystems?
How is all of this going to shape the future of transportation?
It's an exciting time to be watching this space.
It is. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.
See you then.